We have a lot to get to in this week's episode. It's week 13. The season is about to come to a close, so I'm going to go over players that need to be in your lineups, and I'm also going to go over the bold prediction for week number 13 here on the 100 Fantasy Football channel. Hey, what's up, guys? If we're meeting for the first time, my name is Ivan Herrera, and I am honored that you're here watching this video. Do me a favor, before we go any further, please hit that like button. It helps out with the algorithm, and be sure to also hit that subscribe button as well as the push notification, so that way you are alerted every single time I upload a video or go live here on YouTube. Listen, if you want to connect with me, please also be sure to follow me on all my social media handles. All the information will be found in the description below, and let's get into it. We're gonna go over not only the players that you must start, but I'm also going to help you out with some strategy on some things you should do to prepare for the fantasy playoffs, assuming that you are in contention. So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna kick it off by first going over what I do to prepare to make sure I have the right defenses streaming for my fantasy football playoffs. Matt DeSolbro from the fantasyfootballers.com, he shares a great piece that dives into the numbers as well as the averages of the top defenses and how you need to construct your strategy as the playoffs get closer. And being that we're in week 13, it's important to stash your players right now, and in this case, stash the defenses that you're going to be streaming. Now, I'm not really of the mindset to have multiple defenses on a roster, but with the defenses getting really hard to pick by as far as good ones, I think it's important to at least have one extra defense stashed in your bench, so then that way you can leverage the matchups that are given in those upcoming weeks. And there's a great tweet that I'm going to reference right over here by Michael F. Florio. It says that these are the top defenses if you're looking to leverage your running backs in these matchups. What I'm going to do actually is I'm going to go ahead and go over some of the numbers that talk about the point that I'm trying to make here. Since 2012, the top defense special teams has averaged around 12 points per game. The second highest team has averaged about a little over 10 points per game in fantasy football. So the difference between the number 1 and the number 4 defense in fantasy football is only about 2 points. So you're seeing here that the margin isn't that much of a big gap, which means, of course, streaming a defense probably is the best strategy, especially in the playoffs. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to give you 3 of the teams that I would recommend for you to stash for the fantasy playoffs. The first one is Carolina. Week 15 is when most leagues are going to be kicking off in the first round, and Carolina is going up against the Atlanta Falcons. In that first matchup earlier in the season versus the Atlanta Falcons, the Carolina Panthers intercepted the ball twice from Matt Ryan, and they also sacked him 3 different times, giving them a total about 12 points in that game that they were able to get for your fantasy team. And I get that Carolina's going up against some pretty tough matchups in week 16 and week 17 from the quarterback position. But the thing is, they are a top 7 defense against quarterbacks in fantasy football. So even though it is Josh Allen and it is Tom Brady, I still believe that this is still a good team that you need to have, so that way you can have a good run in your fantasy playoffs. The second team that I'm going to recommend for you to stash is going to be the Tennessee Titans. So the Tennessee Titans are going to be playing the Jacksonville Jaguars in week 15, and the thing is too, in the last 9 games, they have actually allowed, in the last 9 weeks, Carolina has gotten 23 sacks. That's tied for 6th most in the league since that duration. I believe it's a great defense to have for you to kick off the first round of the fantasy playoffs. Green Bay is my other team that I believe you need to be stashing as well. They're actually right now top 6 defense overall in fantasy football. And in week 15, they're going to be playing the Baltimore Ravens. And even though Lamar Jackson does scare you because of the ability that he brings in the running game, the Green Bay Packers still found a way to shut down Russell Wilson as well as the Seattle Seahawks in week number 10. I believe that this defense is one of those that just is extremely suffocating. Check this stat out. They are currently right now 3rd in the fewest points allowed, the fewest yards allowed, and also the fewest yards per play. And they also rank 3rd best when it comes to opposing quarterback rating. So I believe that this defense is one of the ones that will also be able to be quarterback proof despite who they're playing. And then the last one I'm going to give, just as a bonus tip, is going to be whoever's playing the New York Jets. And in this case, it's going to be in week 15, will be the Miami Dolphins. So the point of this whole segment is to make sure that you invest right now, be one step ahead. So for example, right now, Carolina is going into a bye week, which means that their defense should be available right now. So if you can, get them right now while there is still no waivers. And that way you can potentially stash a pretty good defense going into the fantasy playoffs. So now we're going to go ahead and get into the players that are must starts, and let's kick it off over here with Minnesota by going with Alexander Mattison. Alexander Mattison is going to be filling in for the injured Dalvin Cook, and in games that he's filled in this season for Dalvin Cook, he's averaged 24.7 points per game. They're going up against the Detroit Lions, who are a bottom 3 defense versus opposing running backs. I believe that Alexander Mattison is a must start going into week number 13, filling in for the hurt Dalvin Cook. The next player is Javonte Williams. I feel we've been waiting for a long time for this player to finally get his break. I think week 13 is the opportunity for him to showcase that talent. Currently, right now, he's averaged 4.9 yards per carry, while also averaging 7.1 yards per reception. And now that he's going to be getting all that volume and all that workload, we know that the efficiency plus volume should equal a massive performance for him. And I believe that will be the case as they go up against the Kansas City Chiefs. And though since week 8, Kansas City has been a top 4 defense in points in fantasy football, while also giving up the 8th fewest rushing yards per game. Overall, though, Kansas City has allowed the 8th most receptions to running backs, while also giving up the most receiving yards to running backs in 2021. The point is, Javonte has that workload, and I believe that he has the opportunity to leverage his position in week number 13 and be a must start going forward. The next one I'm going to be going for is going to be the Las Vegas Raiders wide receiver Hunter Renfrow. The Washington football team is a bottom 4 defense against opposing wide receivers. And the thing is, in the games that Hunter Renfrow has been targeted 8 or more times, he's averaged 16 points per game in fantasy. I believe that this is one of those matchups that you can feel confident with going with Hunter Renfrow as one of your starting wide receivers. And now let's go ahead and get into my bold prediction for week number 13.
It's a bold strategy, Todd. Let's see if it pays off for him.
Okay. So this may not be a bold take because of the name of the player, but because of their production the last few weeks, my bold prediction for week number 13 is going to be DK Metcalf from the Seattle Seahawks. It's crazy to believe, but since week 10, DK Metcalf has been wide receiver 73 in fantasy football. But the thing is, he's going up against the San Francisco 49ers. Historically, he's had a phenomenal career versus them. And in the past 4 weeks, the San Francisco 49ers have allowed the 6th most yards to wide receivers. And I believe that this will be the game that DK Metcalf turns his luck around in week number 13. You get it? Turn his luck around because the point is, DK Metcalf is going to have a huge game, and here's my prediction for his game. He's going to have 8 receptions for 11 targets. He's going to have 119 yards and score 2 touchdowns. The last time he's had 11 targets has been since week 2, and the point is, he's been long overdue for a big game, and I believe that he gets that in week number 13. Well, hey guys, I thank you so much for making it to the very end of this video. As always, hit that like button, subscribe, hit that bell notification. It would mean the world to me. Best of luck to you in week number 13. And as always, keep it 100.